I was in the minor leagues a long time ago, and it's bus rides, it is bad lighting in ballparks. It is what people don't realize, 6, 7, 8 months of playing baseball without a day off, or maybe with 1 or 2 days off only. It was great. That's the answer. Professional ball players playing for a few $100s a month. And what you're worried about are not the things that people, the fan, thinks you're worried about. When you make your living as a professional athlete, you're worried about keeping your job, and you're looking for girls. That's basically it. Mostly I thought that nobody ever got sports movies right, that they were always told from the point of view of the fan. And I don't think the fan has any idea what sports is about. That's perfectly all right that they don't know what sports is about, and it's a good thing they don't know. But I wanted to write a movie that got into the dugout and into the buses and into the shower and went out to the mound to hear what they actually talked about, and shared my feeling that these are a bunch of working class guys trying to make a living and keep the dream alive and not get the pink slipped and sent home. So it came out of a very simple desire to do a sports movie the right way.
It's not a movie that depends on the last home run or last win, which is kind of unique in sports film, where traditionally it's the 15th round, it's a Rocky kind of theme. There's a lot more at stake here than winning a championship. We're talking about people coming of age, of understanding what love is, and leaving one life behind them and moving on to another.
Ron called one day and said, "I figured it out." I said, "What is that?" "We're going to put in the center of this baseball picture a story about sexual withholding, a story about sexual politics as run from a woman's perspective. And that will inform the central core of the story and change this from a movie about baseball to, of course, a movie about love, which is all anybody really cares about at the end of the day."
Well, Ron came to me, and we had a meeting of the minds, and so we were kind of joined at the hip, and we wanted to make this movie. And it was a struggle because baseball was not seen as a commercial avenue for movies, and it was seen as too expensive. The movie was sitting around $6.5 million, $7 million, and it was just deemed too expensive to make, and all that in retrospect seems kind of ludicrous.
Susan was great because here I was as a first-time director, and she had been in many movies, and she kind of showed up on the set every day the way Annie Savoy showed up to the ballpark. Kind of, "Hiya, fellas, how's it going? You know, let the boys be boys, but Mama's here, and your girlfriend and your dreams, and they're all in one body and in one mind and one heart and soul."
Well, you can't think about the movie without thinking of Sue, you know, about how she is in the movie, and she is very trusting, and you know, there's a scene in the batting cage where we talk, and a ball is whizzing between us, just whizzing between us, and I wanted to do it that way, and she just understood it perfectly.
Got the script, and it was a fabulous script. It was so funny, and the part was great, and it was, you know, just busted every kind of cliche. And of course, they were not interested in me. They had, I was not even at the bottom of a list. I wasn't even on the list. But for some reason, they either couldn't find somebody that could both talk and do some of the sexual stuff. There was a very short list of people that they felt worthy to have this part. And they wouldn't read. So suddenly, you know, there was a tiny little window of opportunity for me to humiliate myself. So I flew myself on my own dime from Italy, where I was living, and I came in and I borrowed a dress, and I went in and I read the entire script and kind of groveled on my way out to a number of studio executives, and then went back to Italy. Eventually, a neighbor came and got me just a few days after we'd been back, and it turned out that I had gotten it.
Tim was really the unknown at that time, and I had to fight hard for Tim, and I love Tim, and I think he's great, because Tim's a very serious guy, as you know, and Tim has a great goofy sense of humor, so my job was just to get him to trust that goofy sense of humor and to play Nuke LaLoosh with utmost seriousness and conviction, and not try to get a laugh, play him straight. And, you know, I don't know if Tim's ever been this funny or compelling, really.
It's hard to get someone to play an asshole as well as Tim does. I mean, he really has the market cornered on that. And you have to be pretty smart to be able to pull that off. And he didn't get into Kevin's territory, and those guys didn't get into my territory. And everybody, you know, is very Darwinian. We all specialized in what our little niche was. And that's what I think really contributed to the balance of the movie.
I hadn't read it when I auditioned for it for the first time, and then when I met Ron, I'd read this thing, and it was just so great, you know, so funny and so human and romantic, and talking about this sport I've loved the best since I was a child. I think that the oil was not actually a choice, an aesthetic choice, but a necessity, you know? And I don't remember how we came to that decision to put the oil all over the body. Whether it was like, hey, that'll look sexy, or if you don't do it, he's gonna freeze to death. All I could think of as I was doing it is keep the form, keep the pitching form. You can't let this distract you. You must pitch correctly.
Robert Wool came in and gave the worst audition in the history of motion pictures. He has very high metabolism. Robert is going 1,000 miles an hour all the time, and he came in for like a 5-minute audition and just had nuclear energy and was up and down the walls, and he left the office, and the casting director said, geez, I'm sorry, he really was way over the top. That wasn't a very good audition. I said, that may be the worst audition I've ever seen. Hire him. I think he's great.
Robert genuinely had an understanding of athletics, and his role wasn't completely fleshed out, and so every time the camera was turned on him, you could count on him to stay in the moment with the ball game. He's a very inventive guy, and it ultimately helped the movie a great deal. I mean, he's so good that you wish you could do more with him, but that would have distorted the movie. So every time the camera's on Robert, he succeeds.
Wasn't sure what to do with this, and so I called someone I do respect in acting, Bruno Kirby, and I explained to him the character of the pitching coach. And Bruno put it in very good terms in that he said, well, it looks like the pitching coach is with the manager. If the manager, you know, grows in the organization, that he's going to take the pitching coach with him. So I said, I'm a yes man. I said, okay, I'm a yes man. That's all I need to know. And so the next day I go into the audition. Now, I just start, I'm the yes man. Whatever he said, I was going to parrot. Whatever he said, I was going to parrot, whether it was in the script or not. So if he said something, I would say, that's right. I'm the yes man. I just did it that way. And Ron will tell you, it's the worst audition he ever saw, but I would say, no, I got the job. So it worked.
I've cast professional athletes in a lot of my movies, golf, basketball. A lot of the guys in White Men Can't Jump were ex-pros or college stars, and obviously Bull Durham. And I would rather work with nobody on this planet more than athletes, because, first of all, an athlete is already completely disciplined. You can say, go stand over there for 8 hours and entertain yourself. They will. They're used to taking orders. They're used to having a coach. They're used to having X's and O's. Run over there, do that, run over there, do that again, then go to the locker room and come back in 20 minutes. So, I mean, athletes are like dealing with the military in that regard. They'll do whatever you tell them as long and as many times as you tell them, and they don't complain. They don't have trailers, they don't complain. So I love the athletes. Plus, they're good-spirited and they're funny, and you never have to worry about keeping an athlete up. They're in the ballpark, they're fine.
That was a comfortable experience for me. I didn't feel really out of my league there at all. I didn't pretend that I was one of them, but I didn't feel out of my league.
Sports prolongs adolescence. These guys that get in it and are in their early 20s, and then in their mid-20s, and then in their late 20s, are really prolonging this inevitable. Crash had to personify being tired of that and wanting to move on, and then reading a book, and okay, the kids are gonna push each other around and snap each other with towel. I'm a little tired of that, I've got a different vision of life and of baseball.
I had all those guys over to my house for chicken almost every single night, the entire team. I was making barbecue, and Thanksgiving, we had everybody there. It was a fun set, I have to admit. It was really fun. But that was very much the atmosphere. I mean, first of all, he got everybody playing baseball together so that they really could play.
Sports and movies are two core fabrics of pop culture, and they're a great way to learn about the human condition, to explore themes, universal themes.
Before Bull Durham, there was no real knowledge of the minor leagues among most fans. It was the major leagues or nothing. But you knew that out there, there was the French Foreign Legion of sports, where guys were toiling, and you never knew anything about it. I thought it was a much more interesting world than the major leagues. Major League Baseball is very corporate. Guys are so serious about their big contracts that a lot of the fun is gone. And in the minor leagues, you still got guys playing for small amounts of money, dreaming of the big time. So everybody's still a dreamer, and everybody's afraid of being cut and having to go back to their hometown as failures. So there's a sense of joy that goes along with a sense of nervousness and terror. It's just a far more fertile ground for drama. I was approached by a producer named Tom Mount, who owned a piece of the Durham Bulls. He approached me and I said, I have an idea. I said, what is it? I said, it's Lysistrata in the minor leagues. Well, he knew the great famous Greek dark political comedy, Lysistrata. It's where the women withhold their sexual favors to keep the men from going to war. And so the men in their togas have these giant erections and are led around by them by the women throughout the play. And I especially like writing men in men's worlds that happen to be populated with powerful women. So the idea of the power of a woman over a man, and in this case baseball is the war Nuke is going off to, was an idea that got me through Act 2 of the otherwise plotless but carefully structured Bull Durham. And so Tom said, I love it. He says, you have any characters? And I said, a pitcher, a catcher, and a woman. And a woman tells the story, and that's all I know. And he says, go write it. I spent some time in Durham. I drove to Columbia, Asheville. I went all over the Carolinas to see if baseball had changed in the minors since I'd played, and discovered it hadn't. It had only changed in the big leagues. I started dictating the woman's voice that starts the movie, and I was talking into a little micro cassette recorder driving to Asheville on the back roads, and I said, I believe in the Church of Baseball, and I dictated what turns out to be absolutely word for word what is the opening 2 minutes of the movie. I got home and transcribed that monologue, and without an outline, wrote the whole script. And that's how it happened. You could have a movie about a relationship between a third baseman and a right fielder. You just can't get them in the same frame very often. So practical consideration is that pitcher and the catcher are playing catch the whole entire game, and you get them in the same frame. They're pretty much the only two guys you can get in the same frame. And secondly, obviously, it's the symbiotic relationship. They can't live without each other. So I thought it was a good dynamic. When you think about a baseball movie, it's a pitcher. Because who else holds the ball? I can make him talk to himself. He can be mad. They're all mad. That's where the dynamic is. You don't make a football movie about the left guard, even though the left guard is probably making the plays. So it's practical as much as anything. I chose to write a script that I thought was A, cheap to shoot, and B, nobody could make it but me.
When you talk about movies, there are a handful of filmmakers that when you mention a genre, their image comes to mind. Well, with pictures with a sports backdrop, it's Ron Shelton.
You get a real feel of baseball, the camaraderie between the players, and there was a sense of having been there.
Bull Durham showed how tough it is. You know, every kid wants to sign professional contract, and once you sign, well, you're still, you're an A-ball somewhere in Timbuktu, and it's not as, glorious as everyone thinks it is, even though it is for a baseball player, because you're playing baseball, and that's all you wanted to do.
The most astute filmmakers, such as Ron Shelton, they put character above winning, and that's what Bull Durham did.
Crash for me was a Western model. He's a cowboy. He's a gunfighter. He goes from job to job, town to town with, it's not a gun, it's his bag with catching equipment and a couple of bats. And he's really good at it. But he's never got to Dodge City. And this age, he won't, He had a brief shot. And the built-in irony of the story is by making Nuke successful, he liberates the woman for himself. But he still has to give up the boys' game and start all over at the bottom. So for every win, there's a big loss. And for every guy that goes to the major leagues, there's 500 that are still in Durham. But one of them's going to end up with Sarandon. That's my gift to you, the audience.
The key to the movie is that the three main characters, and really all of them throughout the movie, the three main characters, understood who they were and who they were supposed to be. That, I think, is what made Costner's performance so strong. He's a baseball player. and he understood the game.
His swing and him catching and looking like a ball player, just his actions, holding the mask, when they're around the mound. I mean, he was perfect in it.
Kevin was always behind the camera. He was wanting to learn back then because he hadn't started directing. He was wanting to learn about what was going on. Ron was very generous.
Literally, Ron had took the jacket off his back to give to the star because the bomber jacket that you see Kevin wearing is Ron's.
The feeling was just awesome.
It's like the chemistry in a clubhouse. Does winning produce the chemistry, or does the chemistry produce the winning? Clearly, they must have felt something was going on. In the case of Tim and Susan, something obviously was.
I found that in locker rooms and dugouts and bus trips and airports, baseball players remain the funniest, the most irreverent, and it's their gallows humor that keeps them sane. I've always tried to figure out why superstitions are a big part of baseball, because I am not superstitious in the least, but I was when I played baseball. Like, if I had a 4-game hitting streak, I didn't change my socks.
I think most people have that routine that they have before they go to the plate, or that pre-game spread that they want to eat before the game.
Guys would play the same songs. You're on a winning streak, you'll hear the same song over and over and over. Sometimes you're hoping to lose because you're sick of that same song.
I have little quirks I do, but none of the chicken bone, any of that kind of stuff.
So I didn't make any of that up. That came from a real set of stories from Americans who had played in the Puerto Rican League. Every team had to have one guy who was also a witch doctor, but he would also be a player. So when they were drafting those teams every winter, they'd try to get, who do we need? It's most important, do we need a third baseman, power-hitting witch doctor, or a utility infielder witch doctor? And the chicken bone cross was a story that I was told.
I believe the superstitious things are because your routine, baseball's routine. No one really talks about it because if they're superstitious, they don't want to let anyone know, and if someone else knows, that breaks the superstition.
Of course, Wade Boggs ate chicken every day of his adult life. Got him into the Hall of Fame.
Sex in the movies is never very fun, much less funny. And sex is funny, and it's fun, and it's odd, and it reveals us at our worst and our best and our most ridiculous. And when the movie came out, the word AIDS was just starting to become in the public consciousness. But I wanted to make sex fun again, and funny in movies. And I think that in some ways, the audience was so relieved from, oh yeah, I remember. I forgot, sex is actually fun, isn't it? And I think Bull Durham helped that a little bit.
There had not been even that kind of a woman. I think maybe in terms of her explicitly powerful, sexual, feminine nature, until you went back to some of the greats from the black and white films. Susan was just out there. She said, this character is awesome, it's powerful. Obviously, it's what she then passed on to Jenny Robertson's character in the movie.
One of my favorite scenes was the first scene that we shot.
Baby, come on, fire one in here.
Somebody kept saying, no, catchers, they just sort of hunker like this. And I was like, no, but I think it'd be funny if I do a great big plie. And they were like, but that's not right. And I'm like, is it okay if I do it wrong? I think it would look funnier. So I convinced them.
Who we play tomorrow?
I've had players where I've had to tell them that they've been sent down, or they've been sent down to me. And, one thing in baseball, these guys, they all say it, and I say it too, they're going to have to tear my uniform off my back before I quit.
Well, Nook's scared because his eyelids are jammed and his old man's here. We need a live, was it a live rooster? We need a live rooster to take the curse off Jose's glove, and nobody seems to know what to get Millie or Jimmy for their wedding present.
The scene that was in dispute was the meeting at the mound. Everybody said, well, cut it out. It's slowing the movie down. I said, no, it's not slowing. So we test screened the movie, and on everybody's card, the favorite scene in the movie was the meeting at the mound. So it stayed forever and became a classic, but I had to fight for it every step of the way. The great clown prince of baseball, Max Patkin, in the script, he died. There was a funeral for him. He says that when I die early in the movie, just put my ashes in a rosin bag and sprinkle them on the mound. We actually did that, but it didn't fit. It's why, by the way, Annie's wearing a black veil in a scene, and nobody's ever asked, why is she there in a black veil? It's just crazy Annie.
Minor league baseball, pre-Bull Durham, was something that was very localized. The biggest difference with the success of Bull Durham is that you got a lot more media attention.
It was unanticipated that the movie would affect the business of minor league baseball like it did. I was very lucky to be shooting at Durham, the old ballpark, the tobacco warehouses. You could walk from your house to the game, and it was what baseball was supposed to be. When the movie came out, concessions tripled overnight, and they still are big. So I think we contributed, and I'm delighted about that. I remember when the movie came out, I got a call from Bill Kirkpatrick, who was about a 10-year pitcher. We won 3 or 4 titles together in the minor leagues, and I got a call, and he says, hey, Shelton, this is Willie K. Great flick. And I thought, that's the best review I've ever got.
I think the biggest thing that really the movie has is the sort of vulnerability of the characters. I mean, they're so open, they're so accessible.
Crash Davis loves the game more than the game loves him. Now, that's a phrase I read by a critic after the movie came out, and I thought, that's a perfect summary of Crash. He did deserve more from this game, but he couldn't give it up because he loved it so much.
Ron wrote dialogue that people forever remember. I mean, lots and lots of people everywhere, remember my line.
Can I give you my testimony?
You can do anything you want.
I was in Nashville with a AAA team recently, and the guys were quoting the lines from the movie, and they were, 22 years old. So that it has become a classic is extremely gratifying and was utterly unexpected.
It was a great boon for baseball movies, and the actors' careers took off as well. Susan Sarandon became a major A-list star at age 40. She'd be in the classic Thelma and Louise. Tim Robbins would be in The Shawshank Redemption, and they'd be a real-life couple as well. And then Kevin Costner, he'd win an Oscar for Dances with Wolves. So they all did very well as a result of Bull Durham.
It's always going to be a great movie, not just a great baseball movie, but a terrific movie. And in the same way that we watch a lot of the old black and white icons, I think you'll be watching Bull Durham for a long time.
I saw it fairly recently on a big screen, and I was very pleased that it felt fresh, and audiences laughed as much as ever.
When you think of great sports movies, there are but a handful, and I think you could put Bull Durham in that very small hand.
Minor League Baseball still provides something that Big League Baseball doesn't. It's more immediate, it's closer, the price is right, and there's a kind of an interaction between town and team that happens in the minors that doesn't happen anywhere else.
They're proud of their community. They got a lot to be proud of, and we were coming down there and we were kind of highlighting it in a certain way. And I find that communities, for the most part, that aren't completely assaulted by movie productions day in and day out are always really open and giving. And I really like being there, and that we didn't try to make it a cute stadium or any thing other than it was. It was a minor league ballpark with big league drama.